Hi, I'm Lisa McNamee. I am a serving Army captain within the Irish Defence Forces, and I'm currently working as a medical officer as I am trained as a physician. Yes, so one of the draws, I suppose, of the job that I'm doing is that it does allow a good work-life balance in the context of medicine, which is not a career known particularly for work-life balance. So I do like that about it. It also allows me to have a varied amount of interests in subspecialties in medicine, like diving, aviation, and space medicine. So I applied through a specialist training program, basically for military medicine. So it's sort of a structured program that's open to doctors. So yeah, that's how I applied for that, and it was an interview basis. So at the moment, there isn't really a typical day, but I suppose for medical officers it's quite varied. You could be doing occupational medicine, so basically you're certifying people as fit for overseas, so that they're free of disease, that they don't have any medical conditions that are going to cause them bother if they're away from medical care or they're not able to be evacuated. And that could involve certifying military divers, pilots, snipers, rangers, specialists, and just making sure that they're fit and well and optimising them sometimes before they go over on deployment. I think the coolest part of my job at the moment is the variety. So I have a background in film, so I get to do some communications work with different aspects of both the military and space medicine fields, so I quite like that. It's a break from clinical medicine, and sometimes I get to do health communication and stuff too, so I think that's quite cool. I really enjoy aviation generally, so any excuse I can to go up as an observer on the air ambulance or anything like that, I'm really keen. So yeah, that kind of stuff really. I think at the moment I've had quite a lot of freedom in terms of my job, so I'm happy where I am. But if I had to pick one thing I dislike, it's probably the impact on family life for being deployed overseas. So I think that's probably typical for any military or even from medical field. If you're going to have to spend time away from family, that's a huge thing. So I have a really good social network and really supportive family, but still, I don't enjoy being away from them. So I think that's probably the biggest thing. In one way, I wish I could go back and redo what subjects I took in school, because I definitely wouldn't have picked the same things. It didn't suit me at all. I took technical drawing and home economics for junior cycle, neither of which I think I particularly excelled at. I wish I'd taken woodworking or metalwork instead. But I did biology and English for Leaving Cert and French, and that allowed me to pursue French and classical history in college. And I loved both of those things, and that allowed me to go and live in France and live in Paris, which was always a dream of mine for a summer when I was in college. So I think I'll always have that relationship with France because of it, and it's opened a lot of kind of doors and opportunities that I probably wouldn't otherwise. Biology obviously gave me a good foundation for medicine, even though it wasn't necessarily on my radar at the time. And I think classics is just an amazing foundation educationally, and encourages you to think broadly. A lot of the institutions we have now are because of ancient civilizations. It gave me a respect for democracy and for the oaths that physicians take when they train in medicine. So all of those kind of are built into classics. And I think the other thing is that the really long history of literature and communication in the world, and the way that civilizations rise and fall based on communication or the lack of it, and the effectiveness of that, made me really aware of how important communicating to an audience scientific discoveries are. I think if you'd asked me this last month, I would have had a different answer, but I've just come back from a couple of weeks in Paris at the United Nations Office for Outer Space Affairs workshops, the International Astronautical Congress, and the first ever international conference for aerospace medicine, where I presented my master's thesis research. So I think that 2-week block was definitely one of the most inspiring couple of weeks I've ever had in my whole life, and I came out of it with my mind just full of new opportunities and interests. So it's just been amazing. So I'm kind of still processing that. Otherwise, being selected for the European Space Agency's Space Physician Training Program started last year, which I completed, even though my baby was 2 weeks old at the time. So it was online, thankfully, because of COVID, and she was there throughout the whole course. Thankfully, slept for most of it. So that was really interesting. And then getting selected for the University of Texas's Principles of Aerospace Medicine course, and completing that was also a career highlight. That was amazing. What's my dream job? Some sort of combination role I think would be great, where I get to keep practicing medicine, doing a bit of research and probably a bit of science communication, maybe with some film thrown in. So whether that is with a specific agency or in a military context, it's hard to say at this point, but I'd love something with variety and communication help. Hopefully space help. I think if I was to give anyone career advice, it would be sometimes you don't end up where you think you will. I never pictured myself joining the army, to be honest, but I've loved it. So don't self-select out is the best advice I can give you. If you don't think you're qualified for something, find out how you can fill those gaps. Or if you think, I can throw in an application, worry about what happens if you get selected afterwards. Sometimes people decide, I'm not qualified for that, or I'm not good enough for that, or I don't have this skill or that skill. Often skills can be taught. If you have a good attitude and you want to learn, most people are happy to teach you. If you can get along with people generally, you don't have to get on with everybody, but you do have to get on with the team that you're working with. So if you know you have edges or you struggle in social situations, exposing yourself to different kinds of people and trying to find the best way of working with them, don't have to be best friends, but doing that kind of thing can really help you in a team environment as you go up the ranks professionally.